March 23, 2026, 0647 local time. The sun had barely crept above the jagged peaks of the Zagros Mountains when sensors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln detected something that would redefine the phrase worst-case scenario. 22 thermal signatures, ascending vertically, originating from sites scattered across southern Iran. Speed profile, hypersonic. Target designation, U.S. Carrier Strike Group. What followed wasn't just a military engagement. It was a 9-minute stress test of every assumption the Pentagon has held about naval dominance for the past 70 years. And the results were more disturbing than anyone wants to admit. Let's start with what Iran launched. The Fatah-1 isn't a missile in the traditional sense. It's a statement of intent wrapped in solid rocket fuel and covered in stealth coatings. It developed in complete secrecy by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force. It represents a doctrinal shift. If you can't build a navy to challenge America, you build weapons that make navies obsolete. The specifications are terrifying in their simplicity. 15 meters long, 1 meter in diameter. 2-stage propulsion, solid fuel first stage for rapid acceleration out of the atmosphere, liquid fuel second stage for sustained hypersonic glide, maximum velocity, Mach 13 to Mach 15, depending on flight profile. That's 10,000 miles per hour, faster than anything the U.S. Navy currently deploys defensively. But speed is only part of the equation. What makes the Fatah-1 a true nightmare for naval planners is the maneuvering glide vehicle attached to the second stage. Traditional ballistic missiles are predictable. You launch them, and physics determines where they land. You can calculate their trajectory with high school calculus, not the Fatah-1. Its warhead can adjust course mid-flight, pulling high G turns that would liquefy a human pilot. This isn't evasion. It's active penetration of defensive systems designed to intercept targets that follow the laws of physics. Iran had been quietly stockpiling these for at least 18 months. Western intelligence knew about the program. Satellite imagery captured test launches. But knowing a weapon exists and experiencing it in combat conditions are two very different things. The USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, is not an easy target. She's a Nimitz-class supercarrier, 100,000 tons of diplomacy backed by overwhelming firepower. Her crew of 5,000 operates the most sophisticated warfighting platform ever constructed. Nuclear propulsion gives her unlimited range. Her air wing, 60-plus aircraft, including F-35C stealth fighters and F/A-18 Super Hornets, can strike targets 1,000 miles away. And she's protected by layers of defense so comprehensive that she hasn't faced a credible threat since commissioning in 1989. Until now. Carrier Strike Group 9 surrounded the Lincoln like a steel cocoon. To the north, USS Porter, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer equipped with the Aegis Combat System Baseline 9, the most advanced air defense radar ever deployed at sea. To the south, USS Lake Erie, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser with her own Aegis suite and a magazine packed with interceptor missiles. Beneath the waves, a Virginia-class attack submarine ran silent, not listening for threats. Above, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye early warning aircraft orbited at Angels 20, its AN/APY-9 radar capable of tracking cruise missiles 300 miles away. And yet, when those 22 Fatah-1 missiles punched through the cloud deck over Iran, every officer in CIC understood they were facing something none of their systems had been designed to stop. The Aegis weapon system is a masterpiece of Cold War engineering, refined through decades of upgrades and combat experience. It fuses radar, computers, and missiles into a single automated defense network. The SPY-1D phased array radar can track hundreds of targets simultaneously. The system calculates intercept solutions faster than any human crew. It fires standard missiles with such precision that they can hit bullets with bullets. But Aegis was designed to counter Soviet bombers and cruise missiles, targets that flew fast but straight. The Fatah-1 does neither. Detection came at 0651. The Hawkeye's radar painted the launches first. Thermal blooms so bright they looked like small suns rising over the Iranian coast. Within seconds, the data link transmitted track files to every ship in the strike group. The Combat Information Center aboard the Lincoln exploded into controlled chaos. Track Vampire bearing 035. Multiple inbound hostiles. Speed exceeding Mach 10. Time to impact 9 minutes, 9 minutes. The average person spends longer waiting for coffee. In naval warfare, 9 minutes is an eternity, unless the threat is traveling at 2 miles per second. The tactical action officer, this a commander with 20 years in the surface warfare community, had wargamed this scenario in simulators. But simulators don't capture the visceral punch of watching real missiles arc toward your ship on a God's eye display. His orders came fast and certain. All stations, Condition 1. Set weapons posture Alpha. Engage all hostile tracks. Authorization Foxtrot Tango. Translation: shoot everything you have right now and don't wait for permission. USS Porter fired first. Her Mark 41 vertical launch system rippled 8 SM-3 Block 2A interceptors into the sky in under 20 seconds. Each missile weighed 3,000 pounds, cost $12 million, and was designed for one purpose: exo-atmospheric kill. They screamed upward at 4,000 miles per hour, their third-stage kinetic kill vehicle separating at the edge of space. The SM-3 is a technological marvel. It doesn't carry a warhead. It kills through sheer kinetic impact. Imagine throwing a bowling ball at a bullet traveling at Mach 13. If your math is perfect, the bullet ceases to exist. If your math is off by a millimeter, you miss completely. The first intercept occurred at 68 miles altitude. A Fata-1, traveling in a ballistic arc before its maneuvering stage activated, collided with an SM-3 kill vehicle. The impact released the energy equivalent of several tons of TNT, not from explosives, but from physics. Two objects hitting at combined speeds of 15,000 miles per hour don't explode. They vaporize, one down, 21 to go. The problem became immediately apparent. As the remaining Fata-1 missiles descended through 70,000 feet, they began evasive maneuvers. In not random jinking, coordinated, pre-programmed evasion patterns clearly designed to confuse tracking algorithms. The radar screens showed tracks splitting, converging, altitude hopping. 3 more fell to SM-3 intercepts in the mid-course phase, but the rest adapted. This is when the engagement transitioned from textbook to terrifying. At 50,000 feet, the Fata-1 missiles entered their glide phase. Velocity increased. Radar cross-section decreased. They began using terrain masking, dropping low over the Persian Gulf to hide in sea clutter, then popping up for terminal dives. Standard intercept geometry assumes a target maintains consistent velocity and heading for at least 3 seconds. These missiles weren't giving the defenders 3 seconds. They were giving them fractions of a second. USS Lake Erie switched to SM-6 missiles, designed for lower altitude, high-speed threats. The cruiser's combat system fired in rapid sequence. 6 missiles, reload, 6 more. The sky became a lattice of exhaust trails. Before we continue, if you're seeing just how razor-thin the margins are in modern naval combat, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We break down military analysis that cuts through the noise, and trust me, what happens next will redefine how you think about carrier defense. SM-6 missiles are dual mode. They can intercept ballistic missiles or engage aircraft and cruise missiles. They're fast, smart, and expensive. Lake Erie's salvo connected with 2 Fata-1s, obliterating them in fireballs visible from the Lincoln's bridge 20 miles away. 14 missiles remaining. 6 minutes to impact. The geometry shifted. The attack wasn't a single spearhead anymore. It split into 3 prongs. 6 missiles angled toward USS Porter. 4 targeted Lake Erie. 4 continued toward the Lincoln. This is where doctrine collided with reality. Standard procedure calls for the carrier to stay behind the escorts. Let the destroyers and cruisers absorb the incoming fire while the high-value unit maneuvers to safety. But in a hypersonic environment, there is no behind. The missiles were repositioning faster than the ships could steam. The Lincoln was in the kill zone, whether she stayed put or ran. The decision was made at the strike group level, autonomous weapons free. Every ship fights its own battle. No centralized coordination, just individual captains commanding their vessels through a missile storm. USS Porter took 6 inbound. Her captain, a former Aegis instructor, didn't panic. He calculated. 17 SM-6s left in his magazine. 6 threats. He fired 12 missiles in a ripple salvo, overwhelming the inbound tracks with kinetic mass. 5 Fata 1s died in the next 90 seconds. But the sixth was different. It dropped to wave-top height, skimming the ocean at Mach 9, using the radar clutter from wave action to mask its approach. Porter's close-in weapons engaged late. The RIM-116 rolling airframe missile is a fire-and-forget last-ditch interceptor, small, fast, cheap by naval standards. Porter launched 2. One lost track. The second clipped the Fata 1 stabilizer fin. A clean hit would have destroyed it. A graze at Mach 9 just made it unstable. The missile tumbled, lost altitude control, and impacted the ocean 200 meters from Porter's hull. The warhead, 400 kilograms of military-grade high explosive, detonated on contact with the water. The explosion was catastrophic for the ocean. For Porter, it was survivable. The blast wave hit her starboard side like a freight train. Hull plates buckled. The SPY-1 radar mast flexed but didn't snap. Every sailor on deck was thrown off their feet. 3 suffered broken bones. The ship took on water through strained seams, but she stayed afloat, stayed in the fight, and kept transmitting targeting data to the rest of the strike group. USS Lake Erie faced 4 missiles and killed them all. Her crew executed flawlessly. SM-6 interceptors took 3, the 4th closed to within 3 miles before an evolved Sea Sparrow missile shredded it at 11,000 feet. The cruiser emerged without a scratch. That left 4 Fata 1s, all locked on the Abraham Lincoln, all in terminal approach, all traveling too fast for the mathematics of interception to offer much hope. The carrier's own defenses engaged. Sea Sparrow missiles roared from box launchers. 2 hits, 2 splashes, 2 missiles remaining, and then, in the final 60 seconds, it came down to the Phalanx close-in weapon system, a 6-barreled Gatling gun that fires 75 rounds per second. Tungsten penetrator rounds, radar-guided, hydraulically aimed. It's called the last chance weapon because if you're relying on it, everything else has failed. The port-side Phalanx locked onto the lead missile. The gun spun up, barrels blurring, and unleashed a stream of metal into the sky. The Fata 1 flew directly into the cloud of tungsten. Yes, it didn't explode, it disintegrated, shredded into fragments that scattered across the ocean. 1 missile left. Starboard approach. 30 seconds to impact. The second Phalanx engaged, but this missile was maneuvering, making micro-adjustments that defeated the gun's tracking algorithm. First burst, miss. Second burst, miss. 15 seconds. Every person on the flight deck could see it now. A streak of fire against the blue sky, growing larger, screaming toward them faster than sound. The Phalanx fired continuously, depleting its magazine, filling the air with tungsten. And then, with 10 seconds remaining, 3 rounds connected. Not a direct hit, a graze. But at hypersonic velocity, a graze is catastrophic. The missile's aerodynamics collapsed. It pitched wildly, tumbled past the carrier's bow, all and hit the water 50 meters off the starboard quarter. The explosion lifted a geyser 30 feet high. The shockwave rattled every bulkhead. Windows shattered. Crew members were knocked down. But the carrier's hull, designed to withstand torpedo hits and survive nuclear war, absorbed the blast. Silence. The kind of silence that follows violence. 9 minutes, from detection to all clear. 9 minutes where the most advanced naval defense system in the world faced a weapon designed specifically to defeat it. 22 missiles launched, 22 missiles destroyed, 0 American casualties. By any measure, a successful defense. But the classified after-action report, the one that never made it to the press, told a different story. It detailed how narrow the margins were. You know how 1 missile came within 50 meters of hitting the carrier? How if Iran had launched 30 missiles instead of 22, the math would have failed. How luck played as much a role as skill. And it noted, in cold bureaucratic language, that Iran's Fatah 1 inventory was not depleted. This was a probe, a test, a demonstration that the untouchable American carrier was no longer untouchable. The geopolitical implications are staggering. For 70 years, carrier strike groups have been the ultimate symbol of American power projection. They go where they want, when they want, because no one can touch them. But hypersonic missiles change that equation. Suddenly, the world's oceans aren't safe anymore. Suddenly, a $5 billion carrier with 5,000 sailors becomes a liability instead of an asset. Oh, the Navy understands this. That's why directed energy weapons, high-powered lasers that can intercept missiles at the speed of light, are being fast-tracked. That's why hypersonic interceptors are in development. It's an arms race, and for the first time since the end of the Cold War, the United States isn't clearly ahead. The Strait of Hormuz remains tense. The Abraham Lincoln stayed on station, defiant, operational, and ready. Iran claimed victory in propaganda videos that showed missile launches, but conspicuously omitted the part where all 22 were shot down. The Pentagon released a terse statement confirming the engagement and announcing retaliatory strikes on the launch sites. But the real story isn't what happened on March 23rd. It's what happens next. Because now every adversary with hypersonic technology knows that even the best defenses have limits. China is watching, Russia is taking notes, and the future of naval warfare is being written in the skies above the Persian Gulf. That's the truth about those 9 minutes. Subscribe now and join the thousands who stay informed on the military developments that actually matter. Check out our next video, where we analyze the Pacific Fleet's readiness for a hypersonic conflict with China. You won't want to miss it.